Morning, everybody. Tobin and Leroy here with you. 560 WQAM. Hello, Leroy.
Hello, Tobin.
How are you this morning?
I'm all right.
Froggy, how are you?
I could have done without that hockey game last night.
Oh, yeah. I know your favorite, the old shorthanded goal.
Oh, you know I lost my mind, right? Wait, here's what's crazy, Marcos. I'm watching the TV, and they score. And it's shorty, so I'm already, on high alert. And I'm thinking to myself, they're shorthanded. How do they get a 2-on-1?
Turnover. Happens.
I'm just saying, you got more guys. And they end up with a 2-on-1 with 3 people on the ice. How is that possible?
Very annoying. Cats lose last night 5-3. Vinny Trocheck with the breaker there in the third period. Shorthanded 4-3 for the Rangers. Panthers lose. We'll get more into it later on. Headlines are brought to you by Doral Kia. Doral Kia, choose from over 500 new Kia models in inventory at the Sportage, Sorrento, and Telluride. Remember, when it comes to Kia, the great deals are at Doral Kia. We will, of course, start today with the news of the day, which is the Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey. Slick Rick.
Whoa, we owe him an apology.
I don't know him an apology.
You don't.
I don't know him an apology. I told you. I believe Slick Rick.
I will never doubt you again.
His name is Slick Rick. Like,
Yeah.
you get what you get.
Slick
You're-
Rick. Slick Rick scoops.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, right.
That's good.
I would say this.
Why am I excited about this?
Because
Here's the problem.
you like him, you like Juice.
So
the
The problem with all this is
Let me just give the news to everybody.
Okay.
The Dolphins and cornerback Jalen Ramsey. This was re-reported today by the NFL Network's Ian Rapoport. The Dolphins and cornerback Jalen Ramsey are mutually set to explore trade options, and it wouldn't be a surprise if he played elsewhere this upcoming season, according to NFL Network insiders Ian Rapoport and Tom Pelissero.
okay. So everybody's looking at the wrong thing here. The Dolphins are in a position where they've paid 2 guys a lot of money. And if you want to get rid of them, you're getting pennies on the dollar. Because they're both older. One comes with baggage, and one is over 30.
They're both over 30. I mean,
They're both over
They're
30.
both over 30.
But Jalen
Jalen Ramsey probably got like 4 years left in him, right? Like,
Right.
I don't, you know,
Right.
I don't.
Tyreek, you don't know how many years you got because you got the other stuff.
Yeah, you never know how he's going to behave.
Right. So
He's-
so everybody, if you're bargaining or you're trying to trade for any one of those 2 guys, you actually are in the driver's seat because of said reasons. Not to mention the contracts that you have to absorb. And so I think the Dolphins are in a bad spot in that, what do? You're not going to really get anything for them of substance. Could you just go ahead on and get rid of him and have the money, right? Have the money to be able to do other things.
You're not really going to have the money this year, though. You're gonna get hit with cap hits for the Dolphins. But the thing with Ramsey, this is what it says. Ramsey's currently due $25.1 million, fully guaranteed in 2025. He's already gotten his roster bonus, so the new team would pick up $21.1 million this year to pay him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have any guaranteed money after this year. He just got the new deal last year,
Mm-hmm.
which was a 3-year extension, which kind of makes you feel like he probably went back to him again and being like, more guaranteed money for next year.
That's quick.
It's Jalen Ramsey.
Okay.
Do you not recall? This is the man at 23 years old
Jor-
showed up in the Brinks truck?
Yeah.
Which, like, and to what I would say is the Dolphins probably like, hey, dude, paid you last year, and we don't know what flux we are this season. He goes, oh, you guys don't believe in yourselves? Not a contender? Send me to one who will pay me and have another year guaranteed for me next year.
Here's the problem. Of all the teams that are contenders, who needs a corner?
Oh, I don't know. And I don't even necessarily think that he wants to go to a contender. Like, I think it's probably a money thing. It always is with Jalen Ramsey, which I'm not hating.
You know,
on. That's what happens when you get Jalen Ramsey.
I clearly wish I had been more like that when I played. Right? When I played, I thought, and I just had in my mind at the time that success to me was playing with your same team with different regimes and different coaches and still being a staple of that team. And then for reasons I can't explain, they said, you make too much. We're going to get rid of you. And I'm like, if I'd have known this the way it was 2 years ago, I wouldn't have never showed any loyalty towards you.
Right.
And so, whereas I understand why players do this, and I'm not necessarily upset with them, I will say this, is that I think the league itself has built this based on the fact that what do we get excited for when the season's over with? Who's going to get cut? Who's going to be a June 1st cut?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to give money back? It's not ever, hey, we got this guy in the contract for 2 more years. Like basketball is a totally different thing. I know it's guaranteed, but you don't think like this. And so now the other side is thinking the same way. And I think there's some that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, not everybody does. I mean, there are guys who think that, but I know Jalen Ramsey don't, and I'm not. And I'm not hating on him.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all.
But I think Jalen Ramsey's like, oh, it's not my fault. You guys aren't contending,
right?
Like you guys are in a spot where, you feel like you're in flux because this deal didn't work, and that's where the Dolphins are at right now. Like, look, the Dolphins went to the table. They rolled the dice. They tried vet moves. They tried Tyreek Hill. Their best chance was 2 years ago. Didn't work out. And now the Dolphins are at a pivot point right now.
My problem with all of this, right? Have you ever met an organization that ended up having success that built their team from the outside in?
I mean,
let's think about it. Okay, look at the Eagles. The last piece they added was Saquon Barkley.
Probably the last team I can think of is the Rams.
Okay.
The Rams did. The Rams.
Yeah, but they also, look what they had up front.
They had
a Hall of Fame left tackle.
Maybe the greatest defender.
And they had Aaron. Yeah.
But they had Ramsey, Odell, and Matt Stafford were all not their guys.
Yeah, but look at who they had. Did they have Whitworth? Was Whitworth there?
Whitworth was there.
Right.
Whitworth's always there.
They had an offensive line that was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
They had a defensive line. Unbelievable. I'm saying. So then you could go do that, right? When you look at Philadelphia, we talk about all the other parts, but the most important thing is the offensive defensive line. When you look at Detroit, what is the first thing Man Campbell said when he went there? We're going to be tougher. We're going to be physical up front. And they built from that way out.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only team that I know that built from outside in the end was average at best.
And the ends that were good, they said, hey, see ya, go to Vegas.
Right. So if you've watched enough football and you watch a championship or when it gets towards the end, they don't talk about wide receivers and running backs as much as they talk about those guys playing behind offense and defensive lines.
Mm-hmm.
So why does this team think that they can do it any different than all the other franchises that have won?
I think that there was probably a world a couple of years ago that they could have if all things would have broke their way, but they didn't.
Nope. Nope. Every team
I think they could have. Like Leroy, look, we talked about it in the aftermath when they had that game in Kansas City where it was freezing.
Yeah,
that team literally was signing like pass rushers off the street. Like
that. No, I know
that team fell apart at the end. That was their chance, and everybody just kind of went into this past year. And look, to Stephen Ross's, detriment is he did take care of all his guys, and none of them have worked out for him. Not the Tua contract, not the Tyreek contract, not the Jalen Ramsey contract.
I'm not going to.
They haven't worked out.
But I'm not going to say the Tua contract.
Well, he missed 6 games last year.
I know
that was literally the number one fear about not paying him.
But his situation is not like the other guys.
They're not, but like, at what point when things don't work out do people talk about the situation? Like you knew, we all acknowledge Tua is a good player, but he has one flaw, and that is his health.
Yep.
He is not available, and that really bit them in the ass last year. And so for the people who were skeptical about him and said, hey, have him play out the 5th year, if he was playing off of his 5th year last year, yeah, you're not maybe paying him $55 million. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. I don't know, but probably not. So none of the bets they made on their established guys worked out for them. Oh my goodness! Hello, 10:15 today. A little late skis, huh?
Wow, you're late
Little
by
late,
your
a
standards.
little late skis today, huh?
Huh?
In the staircase.
Oh, don't worry. I wrote a ticket.
I told her, you know what we got to do?
Wait,
Write a
I
ticket.
banged on it for like 5 minutes. Then
And no one opens.
Nobody opens.
Did you
Then-
text anybody?
I ended up texting Marcos and I called him when he wouldn't answer.
Man.
Yeah, because we start at 10.
That is fair. Like, you knew we were busy.
I'm just saying, you text at 10:10,
So Chris Cruz meeting with the media today?
1 o'clock.
PM.
It's not.
What is he going to say?
My
bad.
I would like to ask him, and I don't know how this. I would like to ask him one question, and that would be, when you look at all of the contenders, the one thing they talk about is the line of scrimmage. And you've built this team the opposite way.
What's the question? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. The hell were you thinking, Chris
No.
Greer?
Think about every time you turn on the TV and hear a football person talk about a team. It starts and ends with how well they protect the quarterback and how well they get after the quarterback. Every week. You may have a great wide receiver. You may have a great running back. But every conversation and every point in time, especially when it gets to championships and the Super Bowl, they talk about the guys up front. I didn't make that up.
No, I know, but I feel like he's already addressed that this year, hasn't he? Like, he said that with the media. Has he already
with
said,
the media?
Yeah, he's already said, like, obviously, we're gonna
Obviously.
invest
No.
more.
I don't want to hear obviously. Okay, because y'all laughed at us last year.
I know, but he already bit the bullet on that question. I mean, look, it's gonna be on his tombstone if he ends up leaving. Whenever that is, whatever he has to do to get
He's
fired.
gonna have 2 comments. That, laughing, and F those picks. Yeah.
Which, by the way, I didn't have a problem with those picks.
No,
It's just you burned out your time. That's it.
But my whole, and I've always had this problem, and I've told you this all the time, that you need some consistency up front, especially on the offensive side of the ball, when you need to protect your most valuable asset. He can't be running for his life, because guess what?
Yeah, but you want to know something? F them picks would have worked, or it could have worked, if your second-round pick one year wasn't a cornerback that you took who never played, and you would have taken a lineman and put him in there.
Right. Well,
Whoever
again,
it would have been.
Again, that
So,
brings,
like,
that
if
brings
you-
back to the same.
No, but like, it's not that F them picks couldn't have worked. I get it. You can have if you trade for the number 1 player in the NFL, that's worth 2 first-round picks.
Right.
But when you have to take those other picks, you can't draft useless players.
Right.
And he's not good.
And what you said is actually helping my point. If he wouldn't have drafted a cornerback and drafted an offensive line instead of making a terrible assumption that
Eichenberg's going to work this year. Oh, what? You kept trying to go back to that well? Dum-dum. And you brought it back. Why?
I told you why.
That's why Ramsey wants out.
I told
He
you.
said we brought back who? Eichenberg is back. Old gymnast splits.
I told you why they brought him back. I told you why.
Because they're stupid.
Hey, think of Eichenberg as that guy who sits on the bench in baseball and is your utility player.
But he always ends up playing
Because everybody gets hurt. That's a whole nother conversation.
because Frank, our ringer at first base, took a line drive off the dome. Get back in there, Eichenberg.
Right. Yeah, but everybody has on their roster one or two guys that can play multiple positions on the offensive line. Yeah, you may not get to them. In some cases, you hope you don't have to, but they have those utility guys that can play multiple positions on the offensive line.
He's not Mike Mordecai, dude.
Huh?
Mike Mordecai. That's a utility player.
They don't make him like Mike Mordecai.
They don't make him like Mike Mordecai anymore. Or a Meziga. Take a break. Back with more to this.